Hi friends, Father Frank Pavone here, National Director of Priests for Life. Thanks for joining me tonight for some time of prayer and reflection, a few things I want to share with you, and please feel free to leave me your comments or questions or your prayer requests. We are praying for you, all of us at Priests for Life, especially during this health crisis, and we pray that all of you are safe, healthy, and following the guidelines. And please, let's make sure the 30 days to slow the spread that has been put out by the coronavirus task force of our government here in the United States, 30 days to slow the spread. It's the month of April, and following these guidelines is what is going to get us more quickly to the end of this pandemic, and we will get to the end of it and get our lives back to normal. You can find this at coronavirus.gov and also right on our Priests for Life website in English and in Spanish. And following the advice and directions of state and local authorities, stay home if you feel sick, or if your children are sick, keep them at home. If you're an older person, stay home and away from other people. Avoiding discretionary travel, shopping trips, social visits, groups of 10 people or more, avoiding restaurants, drinking at bars and food courts, use the pickup and delivery options. These are some of the things that behaviorally, along with the 6 feet distance and this frequent washing of our hands, these things are in fact making an impact. And we've heard them over and over simply because it's not so much the behavior of the virus that we have to be focused on as the behavior of all of us, because that's what's going to keep it from spreading. So I commend this to your attention. And let's begin with a reflection from my book, Prolife Reflections for Every Day. Exodus 23:7. Do not put an innocent or honest person to death, for I will not acquit the guilty. Reflection: the shedding of innocent blood was strictly forbidden to the people of the covenant. The giving of the law and the establishment of the way of life they were to live in the promised land set them apart from other nations who did not know the true God, and as a result did not have the same respect for human life. Let us pray. Lord, we are blessed to know you, the God of life. Keep us faithful to your covenant and immersed in the awareness of how sacred every life is. Amen. ProlifereflectionsForEveryday.com is where you can get this book. Now, friends, when's the last time you heard of a presidential campaign that invited people to take part in the Stations of the Cross? Well, today I led the Stations of the Cross on a special prayer conference call that was open to the public, associated with Catholics for Trump, a special effort that has been launched. Maybe some of you saw it online. And this is an effort to help Catholics understand how so many of what the policies and the progress and the accomplishments that the president and his administration have made in our country over these last several years are actually of great importance to Catholics. I would say all of them. And actually putting into practice the things that the faith, the teachings of the church, teachings of the gospel say need to be put into practice. And it's not only on those most fundamental issues, the one that we deal with all the time being the abortion issue. Of course, this is the most pro-life president we've ever had, and is solidly advancing the protection of the unborn, weakening the abortion industry, taking billions of dollars away from it internationally, doing various different things to help our cause like no one has ever done, actually attending the March for Life, as we saw in January, and many, many more things. But not only on that fundamental issue, not only on the fundamental issue of religious freedom, allowing us to be the church, allowing us to preach the gospel. You know, some priests will say, I can't be political, I just have to preach the gospel. Well, I have news for you. Unless we elect the right people, you're not going to have the freedom to preach the gospel. How about taking that into account? President Trump has literally saved Catholic institutions across the country, including our ministry, from being fined out of existence. So, for those that don't like the president or don't like priests speaking politically, you don't have to bother saying anything because I'm going to answer you before you ask me. Think on that a little bit and, pardon me if I get a little bit enthusiastic about a president who actually saved our lives as a ministry. Saved the life of universities and dioceses and religious orders and other apostolates like ours who had to sue the Obama administration all the way up to the Supreme Court to keep our doors open. Excuse me if I'm a little bit enthusiastic about somebody who cares enough about the church and about the freedom of the church, the freedom of Catholic universities and apostolates and dioceses and religious orders to do the work that God has called us to do. My goodness. And talk about, people asking, well, Catholics for Trump, does the president's policies line up with the Catholic Church? Well, do you want the church to exist? That's the first question. You want it to be free? Or do you want somebody in office who, like one of the Democrat candidates for president was saying, that the tax-exempt status of the church should be removed because we believe what the Bible says about the marriage of one man and one woman? It's not only on these fundamental issues, and they're fundamental enough, but it's on everything. What does the Catholic view, for example, of government happen to be? What is the Catholic teaching about the authority of a government or about the purpose of the economy, the military, the White House, the Congress, the courts? What does the church say about the relationship between all these entities and the human person? The church says that whether you're talking about the White House, the Congress, the courts, the economy, the military, or any of these big entities, they all exist for the service of the human person. Human dignity, human rights, the dignity of life, they all exist to serve the human person, not the other way around. Well, guess who also happens to believe that? Our president. It's exactly what he always says. Faith and family, not government and bureaucracy, are the American way. That's a direct quote that you will hear in his rally speeches of our president. Faith and family, not government and bureaucracy, are the American way. Does that sound Catholic to you? That sound pretty much like what the church also believes? When he got inaugurated, you know what he said? Power is being returned to you, the people. He understands how this government was set up. He understands our Constitution. It's not just that he's right on the most important issues, but look at the protection that he wants to give to our country. The protection of your families. Not only by having strong and secure borders, that doesn't close the door to immigration. On the contrary, it gives us a chance to process those immigrants who are online and doing what the Catholic Catechism says we should do, which is respect the laws and customs and heritage of the country that you seek to enter and obey those laws. So do it according to the system that the government has set up in order to properly enter the country and assimilate into the population. To say that that should be done legally is not the same thing as saying it shouldn't be done. Elementary logic or the ability to listen, which some of our opponents don't have, including some people who sometimes comment on these programs. the need to enter the country legally is not the same as saying we don't want you to enter at all. The Catholic Catechism says that those wanting to enter the country must do so legally, must obey the laws of that country. I think some folks that dress like I do and call themselves clerics, maybe it's been a little while since they've read that paragraph of the Catechism. Go back, guys, reread it and preach it. He wants to protect your families. Both Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, neither of whom is worthy of public office, not for one day, believe in sanctuary cities. Come on in, folks. Doesn't matter. Come on in. All of you, come on in. Doesn't matter how violent, criminal, or dangerous a killer or a rapist might be walking the streets, the same streets that your children are walking. You know, we're going to either learn the easy way or the hard way. And we have to pray that it's not the hard way. The easy way is to go into the voting booth, re-elect the president, re-elect those that are lined up with his way of thinking, because he's just the messenger. It's not about him. It's about the policies. It's about the policies. It's not about him. Oh boy, people who want to make the election about personalities. Oh, I heard that the president said something 30 years ago that was really not nice. Are you more concerned about something that he said privately 30 years ago, or something that a judge that he puts on the courts is going to say 30 years from now in an opinion issued from the court? Which matters more? Would you rather have a president whose tweets you don't like, or whose laws that he signs you don't like? Which matters more? Which matters more, not liking the personality of the person you vote for, or voting for the person that's going to lead the country in the right direction so that our faith and our freedom are secure for our children, our grandchildren, and theirs? Which matters more? So when you look at this from the Catholic point of view, and what I'm trying to do here, friends, is just to tell you what the Catholics for Trump is meant to help us understand, is that what he's doing lines up with exactly what we're saying in the church should be done. The common good. We talk about the common good. Well, that means the common good. That means someone who's trying to protect your family, your neighborhood, your community, your country, the borders. Someone who's strengthening the military. Look at how he has strengthened the military. The military is there to defend you, your family, your children, your neighborhood, the military. Strengthening the economy. Thank God he brought the economy to the strongest point that it's ever been, and the strongest of any in the world over the last 3 years, because it's that from that position of strength, now that we're dealing with this terrible pandemic, and once we come out the other side, it's because of that position of strength that we will be able to bounce back. That position of strength, unprecedented. We could not possibly have been in a stronger position going into this tragedy than we have been. Protecting our courts, protecting our Constitution from activist judges. Activist judges. Of course, if you want judges that are going to rip up the Constitution, well, you could believe in that religion. Go right ahead. You want to believe in judges who just think they can wake up and rewrite the Constitution from their own study? My goodness. If that's the case, if the judge can just from his own chambers rewrite the Constitution, we owe an apology to the Founding Fathers for all the heartache and headache they had to go through to hammer out that Constitution. Hey guys, it didn't have to be so hard after all. Just call one of these wacky, liberal, left-wing activist judges that think that they're kings, that think that they're gods and goddesses. And all you had to do was get their phone number, call them up. Have them wake up in their chamber, spend an hour writing a wacko decision. Those are the kind of judges you want put on the court. President Trump has put 200 judges onto our federal courts, including 2 on the Supreme Court. They're going to serve in those positions for the rest of their lives. 30, 40 years from now, President Trump's judges will be making decisions for our country. Even the Ninth Circuit, as Phyllis is saying, is getting to more sanity now. Hey, listen, that's what we want. That's what we need. The Catholic religion, furthermore, condemns socialism. Condemns it. And that's why the president has said America will never become a socialist country. You think that kind of lines up with Catholic teaching? Listen, the point that I'm making is very simple. When you think about the movement of Catholics for Trump, and it's a movement I want to invite you to join, not only if you're Catholic, obviously it's primarily for Catholics, but these are various coalitions that are being formed. There are the Black Voices for Trump, the Latinos for Trump. There are various other groups. There's the Pro-Life Voices for Trump. There's many different groups. And you join the one or the ones that speak to you the most, either because of who you are or what issues you consider most important. But it's not only Catholics that can join this, but people who are believing that the Catholic Church has something to say in our society and an important role to play in American life, which it does. It's important for us to understand that, again, not just on those fundamental issues of the right to life and the right to religious liberty, but on all the issues, right across the board, all the policies. It's reinforcing positions that the Church has laid out very clearly, not only in the Catechism and the Second Vatican Council, but also the document called, it's a book really, called the Compendium of the Social Doctrine of the Church. I know it very well. I know very well the cardinal that was responsible for bringing that document to completion under St. John Paul II, Cardinal Renato Martino, one of our advisors at Priests for Life. You take that document, read it, study it, you'll see how what this president is doing in strengthening our country, protecting it from socialism, preserving the courts in the proper understanding of the relationship between government and God, giving choice to parents to send their children to the school that they want to send them to, and not feeling that they have no choice but to keep them in a failing government school. Reaffirming children's right to pray in their schools and to speak their mind on their campuses. Does this sound like maybe a value that the Church is interested in? Of course it is. This man is doing a lot that we as Catholics should be rejoicing. And you know what maybe one of the most basic things is? Aside, again, from just his view of government and the relationship between government, God, and the individual, is that you do what you say you're going to do. Whether people agree with the president or not, or like him or not, he has a very strong, consistent record of doing exactly what he promised to do. Not just talking about it, not just promising it again, actually making it happen. And this has been something that has inspired so many people. Now, that's one thing. So if you want to join Catholics for Trump, catholics.donaldjtrump.com is a site that's part of the Donald J. Trump website, the campaign website. Catholics, plural, catholics.donaldjtrump, don't forget the J, .com, is where you can go and you will see you'll have the opportunity to sign up for this Catholics for Trump. Then you have also the opportunity to text the word Catholic, singular, Catholic, to the following number, 88022. 88022. Text the word Catholic. If you're interested in this, go ahead and do it now, and you'll get updates. Catholic to 88022. That's the Catholics for Trump effort. Well, friends, if you're just joining us, I'm Father Frank Pavone, National Director of Priests for Life, and we are talking to you tonight about three things. First, I wanted to say something about Catholics for Trump. And today, we had the Stations of the Cross. We prayed. When's the last time you heard about a presidential campaign that asked people to pray the Stations of the Cross and had a prayer call so that people could do that during Holy Week? It was great. So we did that today, and there'll be other events like that coming up. Text Catholic to 88022. You'll be kept informed about these events, or go to Catholics, plural, .donaldjtrump.com. Now, friends, second thing I want to say to you tonight, three main topics tonight. The letter to Joe. So the Democrats chose a sleepy candidate, Sleepy Joe. You know, he didn't really want to be president. Did you see what he did last time around? The one thing that struck me the most about him back 4 years ago was just the lack of desire, the lack of drive to do it. He could have done a little bit better than he did last time around. There was no drive. I don't think a person can win the race for president unless he or she is so absolutely driven and convinced that that is their destiny. It was a dud last time, and now he doesn't even seem to remember from day to day what in the world he's doing or saying. But back in September, I wrote him an open letter. Now, I want to ask you tonight to do a couple of things. The first thing I wanted to ask you to do, I already asked you. Get connected with the Catholics for Trump. Secondly, I want you to go to lettertojoe.com. Letter to Joe. We're going to send him. I issued the open letter back in September, but my friends, I need you. I need your voice. I'm raising my voice. I need your voice. Otherwise, it's going to look like, oh yeah, Father Frank is writing this letter, and there's a handful of people. We're not going to stay out of politics, my friend. It's people every once in a while they say that. What the heck? What are we supposed to do? Go live in a cave? You're supposed to stay out of politics. Well, what the heck are you trying to say? Oh, I know what you're trying to say. Oh, you see, friends, oh my goodness, how could I have forgotten? I'm getting as bad as Joe Biden. We have second-class citizens in this country. Yes, that's what it is. I know I'm getting sarcastic, but let me do that a little bit. We have second-class citizens in this country. Did you know that? We're not all equal before the Constitution or before the voting booth. Oh, no. You should stay out of politics. See, this makes me sarcastic when people say this. You should stay out of politics. Why? Because I'm dressed like this? Is that why? Or because I support the president? Why do you think I should stay out of politics? Because I dress like this? Talk about discrimination. Well, we're second-class citizens, right? Is it because I'm a priest? Is it because I'm a Catholic? Is it because I'm pro-life? Or is it because I'm a Christian? Or is it because of what? Second-class citizens. You see, some people say it to me because it's an easy target. Priest, oh, he's a priest, whatever that means. We're supposed to not say, if you're a priest, you're supposed to be saying it even more. What's right and what's wrong. What's for the good of the people and what's for the destruction of the people. You're supposed to be saying it more. And those of you who may be watching who have higher authority in the church, I think we got some folks even from the Vatican that are watching. Hi, guys. How you doing over there? You should be saying it more, too. Friends, and this is the reason why so many of us rally around the president, it's time to speak things clearly, to stop beating around the bush and being so darn politically correct that we end up saying nothing. And people can't stand that anymore in politics. And you know what? They can't stand it in the church either. Oh yeah, we could dress up in all our vestments and everything and wave our hands around. Then when we open our mouths, yeah, some sounds come out. But at the end of it, we don't know what we're saying. And we haven't said anything. Because we don't want to offend this person. And we don't want to offend that person. And we don't certainly want to offend these people over here. And you end up saying nothing. And then people come along and say to us who are saying things, oh, you shouldn't be talking about politics. You know what? You go home and open up some good books and read and study. There's no such thing in the American system as a second-class citizen. We all have the right to speak up about what's good for this country, what's bad for this country, and what kind of leaders we have to elect. So now, going back to my point here, that's what I'm asking you to help me do. I'm going to read you this letter. You can get it all over at lettertojoe.com, okay? Let me read this letter. It's an open letter to Joe Biden. You can sign on to it right at that website, lettertojoe.com. Let me read it. It has to do especially with his, well, you know, he's a fake Catholic. Fake Catholic. Claims to be, so many of them, one of you said before I should be adding Nancy Pelosi to my comments. Oh yeah, we did a letter to her too, lettertonancy.com. You can sign on to that one too, even though it's a few years old. It still applies. She's still strutting around the halls of Congress, claiming to be a practicing Catholic. She's a disgrace to Catholics. And so is Biden. Their position on baby killing, oh boy. There's not an abortion that they would limit or prohibit. Not one. Not one circumstance, not one. Let me read this letter. And as you listen to this, you like what's being said, sign on to it over there at lettertojoe.com. Dear Vice President Biden, as the presidential race for 2020 progresses, we are likely to see a repeat of some of the contentious arguments in past elections over candidates and public officials who self-identify as Roman Catholics, but who at the same time refuse to advance the legal protection of children in the womb from the violence of abortion. You, of course, fit into this category. Please notice that I am not talking here about beliefs. Many in your position claim to believe privately the teachings of the Catholic Church about when life begins or whether abortion is wrong. But that is beside the point, as many in your position likewise acknowledge. The point I am making is that to fail to advocate for and advance the protection of children in the womb, when it is in your power to do so, is itself a contradiction of what it means to be Catholic. The Church does not ask us simply to believe something about the unborn or about abortion. The Church calls us to respect them as persons by our actions, and to protect them. For the very same way, we are to acknowledge every other person and protect them. Put another way, this is not just about viewpoints and beliefs. It's about victims and bloodshed. The U.S. Catholic bishops have spoken for themselves on this matter in their document, Living the Gospel of Life. And Pope Francis has likewise clearly identified the unborn as the most defenseless ones among us, and abortion as a violent act. Nor has St. John Paul II's encyclical, The Gospel of Life, lost any of its validity or relevance. Nobody can or should force you to be a Catholic, and nobody can or should force you to be a defender of legal abortion, but you cannot be both at the same time. To claim to do so is an insult to all of us who proclaim and strive to live the Catholic faith. And it invites the criticism that your public identification as a Catholic while carrying water for the abortion industry is simply the crass politics of seeking the money and votes of both constituencies. And because abortion not only contradicts the Catholic faith, but likewise the Christian gospel, your position is an affront to every disciple of Jesus Christ. To fail to protect children in the first 9 months of their existence, furthermore, is a failure to carry out the first and most basic purpose of government, the protection of human life, and of our first right as identified by the Declaration of Independence, the right to life. We need public servants who know the difference between serving the public and killing the public. Anyone who cannot tell the difference does not belong in public office. A party or a candidate that in any way supports the killing of children does not deserve a single vote or a single dollar of support. Indeed, if a politician can't respect the life of a little baby, how can he respect our lives? I therefore urge you, as I did some years ago in another open letter to Nancy Pelosi, to either conform your conduct to the church to which you claim to belong, or acknowledge that you no longer belong to it. To have it both ways is a cowardly act that does not inspire any confidence in your good judgment or ability to lead a nation. I urge you to refrain from holding the ridiculous position that you want to be able to receive communion and support abortion. Which is easier to believe, Mr. Vice President, that the host is the body and blood of Christ, or that the child in the womb is human? If you defer to the church's authority to believe that what looks like bread is actually the body of Christ, why do you reject that same authority of that same church that requires you to protect the bodies of children in the womb? I urge you to refrain from silly arguments about the beginnings of life and the different beliefs Americans have about that. You know full well that your party's position, and yours, fails to protect babies even in the final weeks and days of pregnancy, and even after they are born alive as a result of a failed abortion. It's not about the beginning of life, but about the value of life. I urge you to refrain from invoking conscience in this matter, when you and your party violate the consciences of millions of Americans who don't want to be forced to pay for other people's abortions. I urge you to refrain from claiming that you have to represent all the people. Failing to protect the unborn is precisely how you fail to represent all the people. And I urge you to refrain from invoking other issues and the statements of church leaders about them and as somehow equally important to abortion. Immigration and climate change, for instance, are not only far different from abortion in their impact on human life, but they are not even in the same universe. When 3,000 immigrants are being legally decapitated and dismembered at the border every day, then you can come back and talk to me about immigration as being as important as abortion. But meanwhile, let's protect the first immigrant seeking to cross the border of the womb. Mr. Vice President, this is just the beginning of what will be a constant and clear challenge to you and to your party of death in this coming year, and to all who support you. It's time to end this political support for abortion, this failure to protect the most defenseless. It is destroying not only children, but families and the entire moral fabric of America. We simply cannot allow you, Mr. Biden, and the Democrat Party to get away with that any longer. Sincerely, Father Frank Pavone, National Director of Priests for Life, and my dear friends viewing this now, I hope you too. Let your name also appear on this letter. We are going to shout this message far and wide. If you like the things I said in that letter, again, go to look for it. Yes, I'm for real, my friend. There's somebody joining us from Twitch there, Aaron Brand. I'm for real. I don't know if he thought he was seeing a vision or something. Excellent letter. Thank you, Celia. I mean, this letter in many ways summarizes the position that that we give in our Priests for Life ministry in many different ways, in our broadcasting, in our interviews, in our private meetings, in our strategy meetings, in our one-on-one meetings with these lawmakers. These are the things we say, and thank you, those of you that are saying you've signed the letter, you're going to sign it. Excellent, about time. Yes, Maureen, you're going to be hearing more and more of this. More and more priests are joining on with us, and thank you, Francie. It's a letter. It's what needs to be said, right? Because it's reflecting the frustration that so many Catholics have. I think about it this way: the sacrifices that so many of you, and so many other people make to live out not only their Catholic faith, but all Christians living out the gospel. We're trying to carry our cross together with Jesus, and we make sacrifices to live out our faith, right? And if we're going to be known as Christians, or some of us as Catholics, we have enough self-respect to say, hey, you know what? If I'm going to be called by that name, I'm going to live according to those teachings. And so we make sacrifices in order to do that. And then we look at other people who want to have the benefit of being called Catholic, like Joe Biden wants to have, and they flout the teachings and they throw them out the window. They don't make any sacrifice. He doesn't want to sacrifice the political support and money that he gets from the crooked abortion industry and Planned Parenthood, which is a big political machine. He doesn't want to sacrifice all that money and that support. He doesn't want to sacrifice the nomination by expressing any kind of support for the unborn. But Biden and all of them, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. Because they don't want to, it doesn't matter if they believe it themselves. Don't be misled when he'll say, no question, no doubt, he will say in interviews, mark my words, you can be sure of this, in interviews that will be held with him throughout the rest of this election season, he'll be saying, I accept the teachings of my church, I believe. Doesn't matter, Biden, it doesn't matter that you believe it. It doesn't matter, I don't even care what you believe. It's what you do. We're not electing you because of what you believe. We're electing you because of what you're going to do. And because you're not going to protect these children, we're not going to elect you. I believe. They make themselves sound so good. I accept the teaching of my church. I couldn't care less about that. Keep quiet about that. Keep what you believe between you and God, and pray about it, go to confession and talk about what you believe. When you're in public office, I want to know what kind of laws you're going to sign. Are you going to sign laws that protect these little babies? Or are you going to sign laws that are going to kill them? That's what we're concerned about. What kind of judges are you going to put on the courts? Those that are going to say, abortion, it's a constitutional right. Yeah, Joe, you believe the church's teachings. Of course you do. Of course you do. Of course you do. The church says protect them. The church doesn't say have this little belief in your head. Don't worry, Debbie. They've already tried. Debbie says, I hope you aren't going to be reprimanded for this. God help the person who tries to reprimand me for this. God help them, because I'll come after them just as strong as I'm coming after Biden. This is not a matter of some kind of liturgical rubric that we're supposed to follow in the intricate canonical laws of the church. This is our humanity that we're talking about. Can you imagine someone trying to reprimand me or any priest that opens his mouth to stop a Holocaust? Can you imagine? I can't imagine. Sure, some have told me to keep quiet within the church. Some priests have said to me, back in the last election, Hillary Clinton is evil. And in the same breath, they're telling me to keep quiet about it. Sorry, but I wasn't born to live like that. I'm going to believe one thing, and not be able to say it. No, thank you. No, thank you. And anybody who would try to reprimand me about something like this, I will make a public spectacle of that kind of ridiculous effort. Ridiculous effort. So, again, the link to sign on to the letter, thank you for asking, very simple, lettertojoe.com. That's the place where you can go. You'll see the letter. There's a little place there you have to sign on to it. Lettertojoe.com. Friends, I need your help with this because, you know, it's not very impressive if there's only a few people signing the letter. We have to have an army. In fact, I want you to not only to sign it, but could you tell others, tell many of you are watching us, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you're watching us. Get other people, spread the word. I can't reach them all myself. You can help me. There's people only you can reach out. I can't reach. Get them to see that letter and sign on to it. Here's my third thing I want to say tonight. I've been talking to you for a long time, and thank you for sticking with me. I told you about Catholics for Trump. Told you about Letter to Joe. And now I want to show you the very simple reason among many that we just can't vote Democrat. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm a Republican, because I'm not even a Republican. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not registered with a particular political party. I'm registered to vote, but I'm not registered with a particular party. But that's okay. I'm in this because I'm trying to end the Holocaust. And friends, I want to show you the Holocaust. I want to show you why we can no longer vote for the Democrat Party because they support this Holocaust. Not only do they, what I'm about to show you, not only do they want it to be able to continue, notice the words I'm using, they want to allow it to continue. It's not that they're saying to a woman, you must go have an abortion. Of course not. They want to allow this to continue. What I'm going to show you. Not only do they want to allow it to continue, but they want us to pay for it with our tax dollars. Joe Biden specifically said he opposes the Hyde Amendment, which protects your taxpayer dollars and mine from abortion. Let me just answer one of these questions. Common Sense is Best. I love that name for your account. I see you're on Periscope there. Can you come to my church, Father Frank? Yes, I can. That's one of the things that we do here at Priests for Life, is that we travel around to different churches. And if, my friends, any of you, if your pastor wants to come and have me speak and preach, I'm happy to do that. And I can be invited if you go to our website, priestsforlife.org. And in fact, if you go to priestsforlife.org/speakers, you can invite me or one of our other priests to come and speak. And we have a great team, including Alveda King and Janet Morana and others. So priestsforlife.org/speakers, I'll be happy to come. Let me show you this. This is why, because the Democrat Party, see, I'm not saying this as a political thing. I'm saying it as a moral thing. You see, it's not me making the decision. Because the Democrat Party has gotten all in for abortion, because it's in their platform that there is no protection to be had at all for the unborn child, none, even in the latest stages of pregnancy, it's because they took, here's why, like I was telling you before, I get so annoyed when people say, oh, well, you shouldn't be talking politics. Who made it political? All I'm saying is you got to protect these babies. Now, if that's political, it's only because one of the political parties took the wrong position about this. It's only because a political party is coming along and saying we have a right to kill babies. Don't these words make any sense anymore? Omar, how I feel about the separation of church and state is very, very simple. The church doesn't deliver your mail or have an army and a navy and an air force. And the state doesn't decide who the pastor of your parish is going to be or what the readings are that you're going to hear on Sunday. There's a division of responsibilities. There's a division of labor. The state must not interfere with the right of the church to be the church, and the church must respect the state and foster good citizenship. What joins the two is morality. The church has a responsibility to protect human life. The state has a responsibility to protect human life. And they have to work together on that. And if the church were to have a prayer service where they thought it was somehow pleasing to God to sacrifice a child on the altar, well, the police ought to break into that church and stop that service, right? They have to protect that child. And the other way around is true as well. If the state is going to allow this, you don't think the church has something to say about it? Sorry, that's upside down. Omar, is this politics? You see this baby being dismembered here? You know, you shouldn't be preaching politics in my church. Well, I'm not sure which church is yours. This is an internet broadcast here. But you see that baby's arms and legs being ripped off? I mean, there are some political parties, Democrat, begins with a D, that allow this. We can't allow this. You want the Catholic Church to be the laughing stock of the world? Well, any church that can't speak up about this, they're making a laughing stock of themselves. What kind of moral teachers would we be if we didn't say, can we, maybe Omar, maybe you could pass a law to stop this maybe? Because if you can, listen, every single one of us, we're urging you, please do it today. Please write the law. Omar, we're talking to you. Pass the law. Sign the law. Uphold the law as constitutional. And enforce the law. We right now are asking Omar to do that. Now, of course, Omar, we all realize it's not in your power to write the law. Well, maybe you could write the law, but it's not in your power to pass the law, sign the law, uphold the law in a court, and enforce the law. You know whose responsibility it is to write the law? The legislators that we elect. You know whose responsibility it is to sign the bill into law? The president. You know whose responsibility is to uphold the law as constitutional? The courts, the judges. And you know whose responsibility is to enforce the law? Again, the executive branch, on the top of which is the president. Point I'm making is, that's why we vote and that's why we talk about these matters. We're not talking politics as politics. We're talking about politics as a tool to stop violence. You don't believe in that? You know, friends, we're going to be talking a lot about this in the coming months. Between now and November 3rd, we have got to get this straight. We've got to get this clear. We've got to get it clear in our own minds. And we've got to get it clear in the minds of our fellow citizens like Omar. And we've got to get it clear in the minds of our fellow clergy. And we've got to get it clear to our fellow citizens as they go to the voting booth. We can't continue to allow this to happen. We can't. I don't care about reprimands. I don't care about what people think priests should be doing or saying or not doing or saying. I don't care about what people think about, but it's just a separation of church and state. Separation of church and state. Is that all you can think of when you see a baby being torn apart? A separation of church and state. What in the world is going through your mind? You see a baby's arms and legs being torn off, and that's all you can say? Veronica, let's see what Veronica's saying. For the past 3 years, I've been feeling so disappointed in the Catholic Church and leaders From the blinded people to our leaders, all my life I've been told abortion is bad in the Catholic Church, along with everything else happening in this world. For leaders to let their parishioners believe that voting for these people is okay, it's actually refreshing and hopeful to hear from a priest like you. Well, Veronica, it's refreshing and hopeful to hear from you, because this is what we need. Veronica is saying, thanks a lot for your courage. It means a lot coming from a Catholic who was feeling very doubtful of her church. I know what you mean. It's very disappointing when leaders in the church don't lead, when preachers in the church don't preach, when moral teachers in the church don't teach morality, and when those who are supposed to be courageous, well, frankly, are cowards. When they are, I'm not saying they all are, but when they are, that is so disappointing. It's sort of in the same category of disappointment as when an incompetent and morally confused person like Joe Biden is on the path to getting the nomination for the highest office in the land. How in the world can we nominate somebody like that? It's a disappointment when he tries to claim to be Catholic and throws the teachings out the window. I mean, we're likewise disappointed. Because again, like I said before, we're making sacrifices to live the faith. And he wants to have wear the label of Catholic and throw the faith out the window. And the same is true when our leaders in the church become cowards or become duplicitous or can't seem to articulate anymore the teaching that they were ordained to teach. Well, that's my message for you tonight, folks. Now we're about to enter in to the Holy Triduum, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and into Easter Sunday, the three most sacred days of the year. Jesus said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. The 3 days of the Easter Triduum, starting tomorrow night, Thursday night, and going Thursday night to Friday night, that's day 1, Friday night to Saturday night, day 2. Then the third day, Sunday, Jesus rises from the dead, into Sunday night, day 3. That's the Easter Triduum, it's called. And wow, it's a powerful time of year, especially as we're going through this terrible pandemic, which we wish all of you to be safe from. And we're praying for each and every one of you, your families and loved ones. We will get to the other end of it. But in the next 3 days, we'll be praying hard together. And at 10 in the morning, I'll be giving special reflections these next 3 days on the meaning of these days. The meaning of Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday. And then, of course, Easter Sunday morning Mass at 10 a.m. Mass at 10 a.m. right from this studio here, and I hope you can join us. Charlotte is asking, can we share your letter to Joe on our Facebook page? Absolutely. Please do. Please do share the letter to Joe wherever you like, whatever way you wish. And if people want to sign on to it, just send them to the letter to Joe. Just put the web page there where they can find it, and they can sign on to it. And I appreciate that so much, friends. It's encouragement. One of you is mentioning my friend Abby Johnson. Joan, yes. Abby was explaining about spiritual blindness. I just had Abby on our program here for an interview, and she's really very special to me. I'm the godfather of one of her children, actually, and got to know her many, many years ago, and admire greatly all the work and the success that she has had in getting the pro-life message out, and of course the movie Unplanned about her journey. I was very much part of that whole journey, and you'll hear us talking about it on the interview that I did with her just recently, which I will share with you on this channel shortly. I was recently also on a podcast of another pro-life young woman that I admire very much, Kristen Hawkins, had me on her podcast, which is called Explicitly Pro-Life. And we talked about the elections. We talked about some of the things that we're mentioning here tonight. And Kristen also, I want to congratulate her for the great work that she does all across the country with the Students for Life. I'm sure many of you follow both Kristen and Abby, and as I say, both of them, I've been privileged to have a relationship with them for a long time. And Terrence, you know, I got them down the hallway, my seminary degrees, and there's a certificate there of ordination to the diaconate, to the priesthood. Yeah, we could compare notes if you want. I'll show you mine. You want to show me yours? But this person Terrence must have joined us late, friends. Sorry to have to go back to this point again. How dare you be so political? Maybe you'll learn how to be more spiritual. See, Terrence believes, some people think that separation of church and state means separation of God and state, or separation of morality and state, or hey, keep the church over here, you know, all that sort of moral stuff about repentance and do good and avoid evil. Keep that over here. Build a big wall, okay? And over here, the state, it can do whatever the heck it wants. Kill babies, marry men to men, open borders, let criminals roam free. Separation of church and state, yeah. A big wall that ends up killing people. See, some people think that that's what separation of church and state means. And others, Terrence is saying, it's like, oh, spiritual and political, as if they have nothing the heck to do with each other. Nothing the heck to do with each other. Yeah, Terrence and Omar, hey, you guys know each other? Yeah, you really got a rather small constituency, actually. Because people who are spiritual, here's what they understand about being spiritual. I'm telling people how to vote. You mean like the U.S. bishop said that we have to use our vote to advance the culture of life? You mean like something like, I don't know, we should vote for people that'll protect babies? I'm actually not telling you how to vote. I'm telling you that if somebody comes along who doesn't even know that he's supposed to protect the life of a baby, he's not going to be able to protect you. I'm giving you the moral principles about voting and showing you the intersection between spiritual and political. And if you don't implement those moral teachings, you're doing moral damage. That's my role. Nobody, actually, not even political parties, tell you how to vote in the sense of order you or command you. They can only appeal to you, right? Everybody has the freedom whom they're going to vote for. What we're supposed to do as moral teachers is to point out the implications of those votes. If we can't point out the moral implications of how you vote, in what way are we moral teachers? Answer that question. Think about it first. If we as moral teachers can't point out the moral implications of how we vote, then what are we teaching the morality of? Life on Mars? Maybe we're teaching the morality of what you're supposed to do or not do on the dark side of the moon? Is that what we're teaching? What kind of morality? How many angels should dance on the head of a pin? Is that the kind of morality you want us to teach? You want morality disconnected from life? What's wrong with you people? No disrespect, but really, this kind of thinking is really poor thinking. What kind of spirituality are you talking about? You see, here's what spirituality is. A person's relationship with God. Now, in our choices, the choices that we make, and that's the stuff of which morality is based, right? It's about human choices. With every choice we make, we are either coming closer to God or going farther away from Him. We're either becoming more like Him or becoming more unlike Him. We're either pleasing Him or displeasing Him. And the spirituality means how the things we do either bring us closer to God or farther away from Him. That's spirituality. Okay. Well, we're making choices in all arenas of our life. We make choices in the family. We make choices in our bedroom. We make choices in the world of business. We make choices in the world of education. We make choices when we're taking a day off in our leisure activities, our entertainment activities, our vacations. We're always making choices. Well, we're also making choices in the voting booth, right? Is that a choice, or does someone point a gun to your head and tell you how to vote? You see the point? A vote, because it's a human choice, has a moral dimension to it. A moral dimension. And that is why those who teach morality and spirituality have to be able to say something about voting. See, now Omar is talking about people who cheat on their wives. Again, I don't know if you have children, grandchildren, looking down 30 years from now, what do you want to be happening in this country? 40 years from now. The president appoints judges. See, some people, and it sounds like you're being a moral teacher now. Some people want to say to our political leaders, you know, I think you ought to be morally living this way or that way, or should have done it 10, 20, 30 years ago. Okay, well, fair enough. You can have your thoughts about that. But tell me what matters more. The morality a person is practicing in their own life, or the morality they're writing into the lives of the rest of us. You see, we really miss the big picture here when we give a pass to the Democrat Party, who is actually going to write into the law and write into the courts and the judicial decisions that'll be coming down for the next generation what is right and wrong, and are going to do so from a vantage point of the morality, the sexual morality of Planned Parenthood. You're going to talk about sexual morality? You're going to dare to bring up the question of sexual morality when the Democrat Party is literally in bed with Planned Parenthood? You know what the sexual morality of Planned Parenthood is that they teach our children? It's all about the mechanics of sex and nothing about its meaning, nothing about its morality. Sure, you want your children to learn that? Be my guest. Planned Parenthood would be more than happy to corrupt them because they have no morals and they have no conscience. And anybody who thinks it's okay to put a person in public office who's going to support Planned Parenthood, let them come in and corrupt our children in the schools, which is what they do. You are responsible for the moral corruption of every single student who listens to one of these godless, anti-life, sexual anything goes advocates of Planned Parenthood. And they're baby killers. They're baby killers. Oh yeah, we're concerned about morality. We don't care that somebody actually writes it into the law Oh no, we don't care about that because there's no moral dimension to that. Right? We don't care. You don't care that they write it into the law? They write laws that it's okay to kill babies or not. Court decisions that say, well, sexual morality doesn't matter. You need to study and learn the kind of people you're electing. You need to learn the kind of people you're electing. Read the platforms. Show me the sexual morality in the Democrat Party platform. No, look it up. Show me the sexual morality in the Democrat Party platform. This is the platform. These are the kind of policies that, you see, when a president gets elected, it's not just who sits in the Oval Office. It's who's the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and who's the Surgeon General, and who's the Attorney General, and who are in thousands of positions in the federal agencies that are going to, behind the scenes, without anybody ever knowing their names or seeing their faces, be crafting policy that's going to affect the schools, that's going to affect the churches, that's going to affect your children and grandchildren, it's going to affect us all. It's a big, big choice affecting us on levels that go far beyond the one person who's in the Oval Office. You can't be thinking about just the virtues or the vices of the one man who happens to be the candidate for president. What kind of vice president? What kind of judges? What kind of people over at these various departments? Health and Human Services, again, is a big example because they do so much policy that affects these matters. I mean, for a president to establish an office of conscience and religious freedom, you want to talk about the relationship between politics and spirituality. How about politics allowing people to be spiritual? President Trump has actually established an office that specifically protects the freedom of people to apply their spirituality to their business choices, to live out their faith when they make contracts with the government, precisely to live out their faith when they want to practice medicine as a doctor or a nurse or even as a medical student opposed to abortion, because this all does come back to abortion. And under the Democrats, you end up getting punished for that. You end up getting forced to violate your faith. I was being forced to violate my faith. I'm talking here from experience. We at Priests for Life were told that we had to include certain forms of abortion in the health insurance plan that we offer to our employees. How on earth? You want to talk about the relationship between politics and spirituality? Go get Obama and ask him what the heck is wrong with him too. That he was trying to force us to violate our conscience. And then he and his cronies in the administration had the audacity to say to us, oh, well, you know, what you're concerned about isn't that important. Who are you, Mr. Politician, to tell me what is or isn't important to my spirituality and my religion? It's the Obama administration. It's the Democrats that are doing that. Hillary Clinton, oh yeah, Omar, you got a lot to learn. Hillary Clinton, you know what she said about religious beliefs? That they have to change. That people have to start changing their core beliefs to line up with the political ideology that her corrupt mind embraces. It's not President Trump or the Republicans who are saying we have to change our beliefs or violate our beliefs. It's your Democrat friends. You know, it's shameful. It really is. It's a disgrace that anyone should seek public office in the land of the free and tell people they can't be free. President Trump stands for freedom. You see what he did on the college campuses recently? He told the colleges, you're not going to get federal money if you don't allow students on your campus to speak their mind. Freedom of speech on the campus. to speak their mind, including their faith. President Trump actually reaffirmed the right publicly of students to be able to pray when they're in school. So you tell me about the religion, the relationship between politics and spirituality. You think they're separate? Maybe you want to talk to the Democrats about not mixing up the two and thinking that they can use their political might to suppress spirituality. But you folks have got it all wrong. You really got it all wrong. You got it upside down. You've got it inside out. And you're just ignoring the problem. The problem here is not that we who are spiritual speak into the political realm. The problem is that we've got some people in the political realm who hate spirituality, who want to suppress spirituality, who want to marginalize people of faith, who want people of faith to violate their consciences. That's the problem. Your argument isn't with me. I and President Trump and the whole administration, we go along with what, as Donald is saying, the American way. Freedom, faith in God, and the freedom to practice your religion, whatever that might be. It's the Democrats who've got this twisted and sick idea that somehow in the political realm they can suppress the freedom of religion of the rest of us. We know this from experience. We had to fight all the way up to the Supreme Court to be allowed to offer the kind of health insurance to our employees that we believe our religion requires us to offer. And you want to talk about the relationship between church and state. I'll tell you about the relationship between church and state. The state that the Democrats want tramples down the rights of the church. That's what you want? Is that what you want? I want people here now to answer me. But you don't like people supporting President Trump. Guess you're not going to vote for him. Well, then who in the world are you going to vote for? Who in the world are you? You're going to vote for a party that literally is not going to allow the church to be. Let's look at the absurdity of this. Oh, you folks are really good examples of real absurdity. You want to go and get on a high horse and talk to a priest about, oh, Father, separation of church and state, right? Don't forget about that. Separation of politics and spirituality. And meanwhile, you're riding that high horse following people who want the state to oppress the church. You people are a real riot. You're a real riot. You really are. I'm going to remember this and use you as an example. For the next 7 months, we're going to use you as an example. Because this is stellar for its absurdity. Really stellar. Hey, folks, we're going to rally around the separation of church and state. Yay. You vote for the Democrats, you are voting against the church. You are voting against the freedom of the church. Okay. And you're voting for this. One more time. You're voting for this. Babies having their arms and legs torn off, and your taxpayer dollars paying for those instruments, paying for the disposal of the arms and the legs, paying the abortionist to crush that skull. This is what you want? Should we name the instruments after you, Omar? We want to name the instruments after you? Maybe we'll invent a new abortion instrument and name it after you, because boy, these Democrats get in power. Planned Parenthood is not only going to be funded, it's going to be an agency of the federal government. Remember Cory Booker, one of those losers that dropped out of the Democrat race, and Booker was priding himself on saying, hey, I'm going to establish an office of reproductive choice in my White House. Hey, Booker. Yeah. There's reproductive choice, Booker. You're going to have those. You're going to put the dead babies on display in your White House too? You're going to have a room to pile up the bodies in your White House? Take a look at it, friends. Yeah, like Night Owl is saying, they brag about their abortions. These are sick people. They brag about their abortions because they haven't found healing. That's why. I always like, David is saying, listening to Father Pavone, he calls it like it is and doesn't sugarcoat anything except the truth preached by Jesus. Well, David, that's a great note to conclude on here tonight. A great note to conclude on. Because you and I, and so many of the rest of us, we are about to celebrate the greatest event in human history. That this Jesus, whom we follow, and that we are committed to absolutely, he not only gives us the example, he's the one speaking in us and through us. This Jesus, he is the Lord of lords. He is the King of kings. He is the King of every nation. And he is the one in whom we can rejoice. We can deal with these problems, but because we are dealing with them in and through Jesus and not from our own authority or from our own strength or from our own insights, well, then we can have peace and we can have joy as we do so, and we can have confidence in the victory. Jesus Christ is Lord. So in his name, may you be blessed. May you be protected. May you be protected especially from this pandemic. And may Almighty God answer all your prayers and show you his constant love. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, friends. Father Frank Pavone here of Priests for Life. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. when we'll reflect on the meaning of Holy Thursday. God bless you.